Meet Ethan and Lucas. They are both 28 years old. They both earn the same salary. They both live below their means, drive used cars, skip expensive vacations, and save every extra dollar they can. After years of discipline, they each reach the same milestone, $50,000. For both of them, it is the first time money has felt like more than survival. But then, they make two completely different decisions. Ethan uses his savings to buy a rental property. Lucas puts his money into low-cost index funds and lets automation do the work. 20 years later, both will have built wealth. But the price they pay to build it will be completely different. Ethan has always believed that real wealth should be tangible. He wants an asset with walls, doors, land, and a tenant who helps pay down the mortgage every month. So he uses his $50,000 as a down payment on a modest rental home. On paper, the plan looks exciting. A tenant pays rent. The rent helps cover the mortgage. Over time, the tenant helps build Ethan's equity. And because Ethan controls a larger asset with a smaller amount of his own money, he has access to something powerful, leverage. But leverage is not free money. It is borrowed money attached to a real responsibility. Lucas chooses the opposite path. He does not want tenants, repairs, or a second job disguised as an investment. He invests his $50,000 into a broad, low-cost index fund. Then he sets up a small automatic contribution every month. No dramatic calls, no keys, no property to visit. No one congratulates him because from the outside, his investment does not look impressive. It is only a number inside an account. But Lucas understands something important. An investment does not need to be exciting to be effective. Sometimes the quietest strategy is the one that gives you the most room to live your actual life. In the beginning, Ethan looks like the obvious winner. He owns a house, rent arrives every month, and each mortgage payment chips away at his debt. His friends admire the property and tell him he is building real wealth. Lucas gets no attention. Some months his account is higher, some months it is lower. There are no tenants to thank him, and no obvious proof that his money is working. This is where many investors make a mistake. They confuse what feels impressive with what is actually productive. Ethan owns something visible. Lucas owns something diversified. Both can work, but neither is as simple as it first appears. The first lesson Ethan learns is the one new landlords discover sooner or later. Rent is not profit. Rent is only the beginning of the calculation. A property has taxes, insurance, maintenance, repairs, advertising costs, vacancy periods, and management fees. A tenant might leave, a water heater might fail. A roof will eventually need attention, and if Ethan manages the property himself, he saves money but gives up time. A rental can create wealth, but it can also create work. The true return is not rent minus mortgage. The true return starts only after every cost, every risk, and every hour has been included. Ethan does not regret buying the property, but he starts to understand what he really purchased. Not just a home, but a system that needs supervision. Some problems arrive during the day, others arrive late at night, when he is tired or had other plans. This does not mean real estate is bad, it means real estate is active. It asks for decision-making, emergency reserves, and patience with people. Lucas has a different challenge. His investment rarely interrupts his evening, but it tests his emotions. He has to sit quietly while the value of his portfolio moves against him without being able to negotiate with anyone. After 10 years, their wealth may be closer than most people expect. Ethan has built equity through appreciation and mortgage paydown. His leverage has amplified the value of a larger asset, but he has also paid for repairs, insurance, taxes, and the hidden cost of his own time. Lucas has built wealth through steady contributions and compounding. He has no mortgage debt, no tenant risk, and no single neighborhood determining his outcome. But he has lived through volatility without knowing what tomorrow's balance would look like. They have both paid for their progress in different currencies. Ethan with responsibility, Lucas with patience. Compounding is difficult to respect in the beginning because it looks slow. The first few years are often unimpressive. You contribute money, wait, and wonder whether anything is happening. But then the growth itself begins producing more growth. The curve starts to rise faster. The gains from the portfolio can eventually become larger than the money being added each year. That is the quiet power Lucas is building. He is not trying to find the perfect moment or predict the next crash. He is simply giving time the chance to do what time does best: turn consistency into momentum. Ethan's advantage is leverage. With a smaller amount of his own capital, he controls a larger asset. When property prices rise, his equity can grow faster than a cash-based investment. But leverage magnifies both directions. If the property sits empty, the mortgage does not disappear. If the market weakens, he cannot instantly sell a small piece of the house. Leverage can accelerate wealth, but it makes planning and risk management non-negotiable. A powerful engine needs a capable driver. 20 years later, Ethan owns a property with substantial equity, providing rental income but requiring ongoing management. Lucas owns a diversified portfolio that has compounded quietly, offering liquidity and complete freedom. One built wealth through ownership and active work, the other through diversification and time. The question is not which story sounds better, but which life sounds more like you. Would you rather manage an asset or manage your behavior? Before choosing either path, ask, how much debt can you handle without losing sleep? How much time are you genuinely willing to give? Could you handle a tenant emergency on a weekend? Could you watch your portfolio fall without panic selling? The best investment is not the one with the most exciting story. It is the one you can understand, sustain, and continue through difficult seasons. Wealth becomes stronger when it has more than one way to survive. So, does real estate beat stocks? Sometimes. Do stocks beat real estate? Sometimes. But the winning strategy is not about copying Ethan or Lucas. It is about understanding the full cost of every decision: the money, the time, the debt, the stress, and the risk. If this comparison helped you see the real math behind investing, like the video and subscribe. Would you choose a rental, index funds, or a combination? Tell me why in the comments. Because informed investing is about building a strategy you can stay with for decades.